this computer. Pressure's on.
Okay.
Now that the good doctor is joined us.
Well, let me start this up with the 24-inch CDK in Chile, because we have a lot of interest apparently in, so we have 2 people trained. We have 2 more operators. I'm really almost not an operator. I could fumble my way through it, but when it comes to Nina, I would fumble for a while, and especially SharpCat. But we have Sophia and Leon, and they are official operators of the 24. And Matt and I had a discussion yesterday or the day before about training new people. And anybody here want to become an operator? And then of course you've got to teach others. Okay. All right. And so let me tell you what that means. Matt and Planewave would like this to be kind of a student research, student astronomical experience telescope. So we would love to have from every operator, we'd love to have a bio that we can put on our website, and a statement of why you'd like to do speckle astronomy or anything else on the 24 that is related to photons anyway. And a project or a program, let's call it a project goal. And that might be just to help students or, whatever you'd like, but students should have a project goal that we can put on the website. And, that would be whatever they want to, do red dwarfs 5 or wherever we're at with it, 4 or 5 or 6, I don't remember. But so if you want to be an operator, we'd like to have at least stuff on the website. It can be very short. It doesn't have to be, super elaborate, just something that we can show the telescope. We can show some of the work you've done. We'd love to have a speckle reduction or 2 that we can put up there, and then Matt will take care of putting it all up. Okay. So that I would like to make a requirement for you to be an operator. The second thing is that you've got to be able to operate the telescope from beginning to end. That means turning it on, cooling the camera, understanding how the power boot bar works, etc. All the way through using Nina to acquire targets, and doing then speckle using, at the moment, SharpCat. And then turning off the telescope, parking it, warming the camera appropriately, and so forth. And Sophia has, and maybe Leon, I'm not sure, but certainly Sophia has volunteered to write that documentation. It can be very short and sweet. She doesn't have to, you don't have to write everything about Nina. We'll assume that people can be trained on Nina and SharpCat, but certainly how you turn on the telescope and how you park it and turn it off is very important. And where you find the weather information and how you figure out which roof you're in. We're in number 1, I think. And how you see if the roof is open or not, and so forth. Okay. Just the really brief stuff about the observatory and the telescope. And then Sophie and Leon have volunteered to train a person or people to operate the telescope from beginning to end. So before you become an operator, I would like to see you be able to operate the telescope completely from beginning to end without any assistance. And that may take a few, observing sessions to be able to learn how to do that. If that's okay with you, then we can start whenever the sky is clear and Sophie and Leon want to, take the job of running you through the operation of the telescope. I won't have internet for the next couple of days. I'll be back here on Sunday. And and on Sunday, we hand the telescope back over to Matt. I'm bugging him to get a schedule together. He's, procrastinating a little bit. So we'll have a schedule of the nights that are ours. There'll be probably brighter moon nights, excuse me. And because we keep the telescope around the new moon for Matt and for customers. He has customers come in to see the operation of the telescope. Let me see what else I wrote down in my notes. And when you become an operator, I'll put you on the WhatsApp list that we use for the telescopes in Chile. And that will fold over into the 1 meter also. So we have the filters, Matt has the filters, Matt has the adapters and stuff. So this time when he goes down, we should have on port 2 of the 1 meter, we should have an operational speckle camera. That's the hope. Okay, let me see what else I said. It would be great to publish papers, obviously, and that should be the goal. And PlaneWave would love that too, and they'll put it up on their website as soon as it's published or even as a preprint or whatever. Right. The final thing is about actual scheduling of the telescope. I really don't care who uses it as long as there's an operator there involved with the telescope. But I would like to know who's operating it that night, just a short email. And at the end of the evening or the next day, send me an email about whether it worked or not, or if you had trouble, or and if it worked, what you're able to observe. And we'll keep that information also on the website so that people can see the activity of the students on the 24-inch and then on the 1 meter. So we'll do all the same stuff for the 1 meter. Okay, so given that, do we still have people who want to be operators? Okay.
Same hands.
And
Dave,
maybe
I
Nathan,
have a question about, is your plan to use the 1 meter with the same software so they'll kind of be interchangeable? Even though there's not speckle on the 24-inch, will Nina and SharpCap be the primary software way to attack it?
yeah, we'll be able to load our own software that we want to use on the 1 meter. It's interfaced, the mount interfaces through PWI4 and the focuser interfaces through PWI3. They're both ASCOM objects. There's a instrument, there's a port selector and maybe an instrument selector. So there'll be some additional stuff perhaps to do, but we'll have to, we'll take care of all of that. Yeah, so the answer is yes, we'll use the same software, but there'll be a bit more stuff that we'll have to, take care of. Okay.
There's Pat.
I know that Nate also was interested. Hey, Pat, how you doing? Guess you didn't connect right. Pretty soon we'll have to plug our brains into the computer through a USB cable. And, and if it's broken, you're in trouble. So that's the idea of the telescopes in Chile, okay? Any comments about that or questions or whatever?
I'm really looking forward to it. And once I get going on it, I'll certainly get students going. And hi, Grady.
And I guess I would say I'll write something up and send it to you, Dave, and see what you think.
Yes, send it to me. And so you're going to have to come up with a program, a project that you want to accomplish. And that could be anything, helping students, whatever you decide to do.
What about the situation with, for instance, Sophie and I, maybe Sophie and Scott and Leon, we'll all be working on Red Dwarf 5 project or other, other projects together. So do you want just one, or just each person have their take on it, or what?
The project description?
Right.
Yeah, whatever you want to write is totally okay with me.
In my case, since Pat and I collaborate quite a bit, what I would write might be supportive of some of Pat's projects and goals.
Sure. I mean, this is just something, there's a little bit of PR we can put on the Planewave website is really the reason we're doing this. But I would like to keep track of what objects you take and what results you got so that we can start to populate that website with, nice stuff. And then if a paper comes out of it, well, that's, like a touchdown. Okay. Okay. So, trying to think, I know I had another subject, but maybe any other questions about that? Oh, I know. So Nate, I think Sophie, Nate wanted to participate too.
Yeah, I believe so. I think this meeting time conflicted with something, but I'll check in with him afterwards and see if we can schedule something up with all of the people who wanted to get trained up.
Yeah, so maybe you want to you want to start training everybody at the same time. Whatever, however you want to do it, but it's going to take some time because you've got to actually get your hands on the telescope and operate it, and that's a very different experience than watching somebody kind of go through the motions. So. And then before we can call you an operator, I want to make sure you can go through the whole thing from beginning to end. So I'll have to, I'll be involved in that part of it. And the reason I'm doing that is that I want also everybody to participate in the 1 meter when we have it, because that'll be a true speckle instrument because we have a Barlow on it and et cetera. So, it's going to be, and a filter wheel and all of the great stuff, Sloan filters. And then we should be able to really do some serious work. And then I really like some operators for that too, but I have to make sure that, everybody knows what they're doing. Okay.
Kat, do you have any limits in the mount? Or can you set those limits to prevent any, it's prevented pointing below the horizon or hitting the arm base?
Well, I think Matt's going to check in on that when he's down in Chile. I don't think there's any problem because I pointed it at the ground once just to make sure it would, it was accidental.
Did it focus okay?
Yeah, there's a bit of a focus problem pointing in that direction, but otherwise it didn't do any damage. I left the tracking on, and we don't have a software stop. So it'll just keep tracking and tracking, and it tracked all the way to the ground, pointing like straight down, but nothing bad happened. So I do want you to turn off the telescope and park it and, all of that stuff. But Matt and I had a discussion, and we're not worried that you can break this thing. You might break the camera if you cool it or warm it too fast. So that's the only thing that you really do have to be careful about. Okay.
I
Calais.
I have two things. The first is that exoplanet that I mentioned in on email. I've done a little bit more research. Well, actually, it kind of stunned me when somebody on Exoplanet Watch said, like, does anybody need observations? And I was like, well, there's the Southern Hemisphere target that we won't be able to get till February. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I didn't know, but like so many people came out of the woodworks and like, you know what I think? I think the thing is, and this relates to my second point, target selection is the hardest part of any project. Like it really is. So as soon as somebody has a target, everybody's just like, I want help. I want to help. Like you have something interesting. Anyway, I don't think anywhere we'll be able to image this thing before Leon can get it. Thanks for looking that up, Leon, because even the ones in Australia, I was like, oh, Australia might have different nautical dusk times for it, and they can't see it till you can. So like, why is that the same as Chile? I don't know. I haven't looked at it. However, some of the people who were talking about this did some more research into it, and the threads on Exoplanet Watch Slack, if any of you are on there, but Tom Esposito looked it up on TESS, and it might not have the deep dip that I advertised. It might be a 0.7% dip, not an 8% dip. It might be just wrong in the Exoplanet archive. However, I did get a transit of it with LCO. I did see something that looked like a dip, which was 2%. So it's an interesting target because it has all these mysteries about it. I posted the thing. It's a target identified by one of my students in fall when they were doing exoplanet transit observations. And I've been enchanted by this idea, Rick's idea, to speckle the transit, because I think that would be just the coolest thing ever. However, then I spoke about that idea some more with I mean, if the dip is really 0.7%, I'm guessing speckle photometry isn't up to that subtle of a difference. So like Rick's idea, which I thought was amazing, is to see which star it's going around based on the photometry. I don't know if that would be possible. The star has a companion in addition to an exoplanet, which might be masquerading as the exoplanet. Maybe that's the source of the confusion in the archive and in TESS. And I don't know. It's an interesting target in any case. I think.
What's the magnitude of the object?
Great question. I think it's 11. And I think the companion is 4 arcsecond separation. So it would be easy to separate the stars with speckle. And then the question is, would speckling the transit be something that would give insight into anything the planets do? I just really want to do this because it just sounds so cool and like it's such a great idea. So I'm trying to think of a way that this would be still useful to do. Of course, I don't want to spend the telescope time if it wouldn't be. So I'd be curious on everyone's.
Clay, is this a test target, or is it isn't a known confirmed EXO, is it?
So it is in the NEA. It's HIP 65AB. And
Say it again.
HIP 65AB. I just stuck it in chat, and I didn't know it was in the TESS catalog, which is why when Tom Esposito looked it up, the article that he cited was new to me. So it seems like there's just some, and I think that's why it was relatively high up. I was excited when my student identified it because it's like number 92 on the Exoplanet Watch priority list, which granted has a couple thousand exoplanets on there, but like we never can image anything less than 100 because they're like the high priority targets that are better ranked tend to be dimmer or inaccessible. So I was just like, oh, number 92, and it has an 8% dip and it's mag 11 and we can totally get this. But now
Then-
I'm wondering.
Well,
Are
can
you
you
saying an
check?
8% or a 0.8% dip?
I said
0.08.
8. I said
8%.
8%. Yeah.
That is a big dip.
Right, and perhaps there was a decimal point error because in
Something-
the test
that doesn't
catalog. Right, I would, because that's why I was just like, well, I see why it's such a high priority target. Maybe it's a star, not a
Yeah,
planet.
right.
Can
and
you
so that's
check
what I was
on the?
thinking. Oh, go ahead.
Can you check the magnitude and we'll do a little calculation to see what we will get with various exposure times?
Yes. Oh, thanks, Leon. 11 in V.
11, okay, so let me share my screen. We'll go through a little calculation.
In my limited experience, it's pretty easy to do speckle on 11th magnitude for astrometry. But for photometry, it's kind of a different game because the photons tell you where they're coming from pretty well, but they don't tell you how many of them very easily. You have to
Well-
have pretty good signal to noise.
The thing is, though, you can do both at the same time. I mean, you can do, I
Sure.
think, everything that you want because the camera has very low read noise.
Sure.
And but we'll
Thanks.
go through that here.
Yeah.
Let me share my, oh, you've got me disabled.
All right. Multiple part. Okay. Did I fix it?
Well, let me see. Yep, you fixed it. Thank you.
Oh, by golly.
All right, so let's put in our telescope. It is in fact a 60 centimeter, that's close enough. Elevation is air mass, probably okay. Object brightness, so let's go with 11 mag. And we're going to do this in, this is in R band. You want to do it in V band? Yeah, of course. Let's do, or actually probably full band, right? Let's get every photon we can. So we don't want to have any filtering at all. Let's see if I do Control C, it should let me copy that. So now we got every photon we can get. So it's wide open, basically, no filter. And the image scale is correct. That's probably a pretty good guess. In fact, I've been seeing recently, that's even better than 2 arcsecond. So we should be able to do 1.5 up there. We're going to use a measurement aperture of, yeah, maybe 15 pixels. That gets, no, that doesn't get us all the light, 20 pixels. That gets us pretty much all the light. Now, if we take one exposure, that's the read noise. The dark current doesn't matter. The sky background depends on, whether the moon is up or not. Let's leave it at 19. And there we go. That should do the job. And let's make the exposure time 0.1 second. So you're going to get, these are very approximate numbers, but you'll get probably 5,000 to 8,000 photoelectrons for every exposure. And that gives you an SNR of 23, or in millimag, turning that into millimags, you got a SNR of, SNR is a good way of saying it, of 43 millimags. So if it's got a 0.7% dip, that's 70 millimags. So you're already, with a single exposure, you've already got error bars that are only 43 millimags. So you should be able to see it with a single exposure, which means you can take these 0.1 second exposures like forever. Of course, transits, you want to be careful because you can fill up memory very fast. But nonetheless, you could speckle it and average a bunch of those exposures together by stacking, right?
Yeah.
You could stack those exposures and then bring down your SNR to something very small. Let's see what we can do here. Number of exposures. Suppose I stacked 100 of them. So that would only be 10 seconds worth of exposures. Now we're down to 4 millimags.
Dave,
Okay.
the read noise is 26. Is that electrons or is that?
The read
That's
noise
1.5.
is, the read noise is
but-
1.5 electrons per pixel.
Why does it say the read noise in the blue patch is 26?
The read noise over here.
Yeah,
Well, let's see, it's B23. It's this number times the square root of the number of pixels. So you add the noise in every
Oh,
pixel that,
okay.
that you're accumulating.
okay. So that's
And that
not
grows as-
individual pixel, that's the whole aperture.
Yeah, that's this calculation here is for the entire, measurement aperture.
Okay,
I might be that might be a little bit optimistic. We probably should go back to 25 because we don't want to miss, there's lots of reasons to have the aperture a little bit bigger. But nonetheless, we end up with something that's very good, even by averaging only 100 of these 10th second exposures.
yeah.
And you could do that periodically. There's a lot of, there's a lot of techniques you could apply to this. So you can see that now there is something, what did I put in for scintillation? Okay, so you got to do very good flat fielding to get that answer because of for the obvious reasons. And that we've talked about, I think, plenty of times, right? Or do we need to discuss why we have to do, okay, Scott's shaking.
Could Matt install a flat fielding panel when he goes down there in 3 weeks?
Probably not. So you have to do twilight flats and you got to get good at that if you want to do this, okay?
Yeah, because they close the roof fairly quickly. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Flats are a big problem. There are a few techniques to do flats, and you can go look at those on the web and try various techniques to see if you like them or they produce
Yes.
good results. So
There's a technique that you can, when it's dark, you go to a fairly uncrowded field, take a bunch of different exposures, you move the telescope a little bit each time. And then that ensemble can give you a flat.
yeah, but you've got to accumulate a lot of photoelectrons in each pixel total to do 0.5% flats. 0.5% flats is state of the art. I've never quite got there, but I've certainly done a little better than 1%. Does that want 1% or what is, no, yeah, 100%.
100%.
100% bad, right? Okay, so there we go. So you can see that even a 1% flat isn't too bad, right? But as we start to get up to, well, it might not dominate. Let's see what, that's the beauty of the spreadsheet. I get surprised from time to time by using it. even a 2% flat is actually not so bad because what's dominating? Scintillation, which we can't do anything about. Scintillation is the starlight's being refracted in and out of the aperture in a random way. And it is just really what it is. Okay. But the seeing
but-
there is good.
What we're seeing here is the very worst case anyway, since the QE is much higher in the QHY 600.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
this is a CCD camera QE.
Well, for these short exposures, how would the stacking, since the whole idea of speckle is that the image jumps around, right? So for these short exposures, the stars would be jumping around a bit. Presumably, we wouldn't have done autocorrelation to stack, or are we doing that?
I mean, we could. I mean, that could be a breakthrough technique that we can apply to this. I mean, I have to think about it. There's a lot of interesting things that we could actually do here. We could take groups of a few hundred images, speckle them, and then use that as the object to do the photometry on. And I don't know if that helps or hurts, to tell you the truth. I haven't thought about it. So, but it could be a very valuable technique because we can eliminate some of the noise. Because, well, yeah, there's a lot to talk about there, but in the spectral domain, in the Fourier domain, we can eliminate all of the noise that doesn't belong inside of the aperture. And that can be quite a big thing. I think that reduces the scintillation. So
How long does the transit last, Clay?
Less than an hour. It's a quick one, at least according to NASA Exoplanet Archive, which was wrong about the depth. So I don't know, but the one that we got on LCO does look like it fit in that window. And usually we take some time on either end after egress and before ingress. Wow, that's an interesting idea. Now I'm really interested. One thing I like about this is that even if it just completely doesn't work, we could still get other transits and maybe some just plain speckle observations, since it's split by 4 arc seconds. Like, for sure we could get that with speckle, right? So like, even if this doesn't work, they would have a paper. Got a plan for the
right,
backups. I'm going to see one of the students at 11:30, which is, I'm going to have to go at 11:30, and I'll see one of the students there, and we'll set them on some more background research for this target. So, but this is it's just a really cool idea to think about. And I'm a little bit sketched out by the fact that I seem to have mobilized so many people who like just want a target to get observations of it. So yeah, definitely need to do a little more research.
Hey, Clay, what was the separation between the stars? You said it was 2 close stars?
Yeah, 4 arc seconds, I think. So that's like, we would for sure be able to not split them with LCO and split them with speckle, which is a nice, motivation for using speckle on a system that has some interesting, cool things about it. Which
Has anybody tried to differentiate the two in the exoplanet observations of it?
that was Rick's idea. I don't know. So I think probably maybe I'll get the students working on the background research to answer these questions and come back next week with some more.
Because that's one of the, when you're doing tests, that's one of the main objectives of the citizen observations, is to resolve close doubles like that.
So,
My comment
yeah.
earlier.
Has super application for photometry. If you can take a small telescope and bring the SNR down to 4, that's pretty impressive. That has lots of applications.
But to try to do it with speckle is at 4 arc seconds, they're pretty close. for photometry, and there's probably some crosstalk, but if you do it with speckle, you might very well isolate the two and make sure which star is,
Yeah, you
being
can probably tell
translated.
which star is, which would be very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
think about
That
that.
would be awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Now
there's a
I'm-
lot
now
of-
I'm even more excited.
The comment about the signal and noise before was based on filter photometry, you know, with Sloan filters. So you only get, I don't know, 10 or 15% of the light at a time. So using a wide open clear filter would really make things a lot more.
It'll smear the
photons.
speckles a bit, so there's a trade-off
it'll
there.
smear 'em a
We
little
might
bit.
want to have a V-band filter for that. I don't know. We have to think about it.
Elliot
When's
Horch has a paper on photometry of via speckle of close binaries. And one of the things he found, the overlap you were mentioning where, the two are contributing. He came up with a quantitative correction for that effect that he called Q.
What do you call it?
Q. I can send the paper out.
Okay, this binaries paper, rescue.
The thing
So-
that catches my eye is that even if it's not a binary, to have that kind of improved signal to noise for a small telescope doing a transit has application to any exoplanet transit, or am I missing something?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very totally brand new thing. I've never thought about doing time series photometry using speckle. I don't know.
But what about the comparison star for exoplanet photometry?
Oh, wow.
That's a good point. You need to interrupt the process once in a while and go look at a reference star and then come back, I think, for
Yeah,
yeah, because you want to be
several
observing
times
the,
during the hour.
and part of the
it's actually
problem
3
with-
hours, I think, or at least 2 hours. I think you've got to have time on either side of the
Yeah.
transit. Yeah,
Well, but you can automate the jumping by
Yeah.
taking 1,000 images, quickly slewing, taking 1,000. You can just go back and forth as you want since the pointing is so accurate.
yeah, in those long periods of time, you've really got thousands and thousands of images. Maybe we need a bigger hard drive.
Something to keep in mind is that in order to get any photometric information, you really have to do bispectrum because the autocorrelation doesn't have any photometric information left.
Yeah.
So
That's okay.
That's right. We've got bispectrum, so we can do
yeah,
that.
so we got bispectrum. And picking it, you need batches of images in order to do bispectrum, at least 3, maybe, 10 is better, 100 is better, 1,000 is better, but then whether you take those and batch them together and sample them and stack them for even lower signal noise, then well, that's got to go practice it and see what happens.
And there's lots of things we can try. Taking short exposures reduces the effect of seeing. The tip tilt, the slow tip tilt component goes away. So with this object, it looks like we could take even shorter exposures. We can talk about that later when the opportunity is more present. When's the first time we could do a observation?
The nicest first time to do an observation would be mid to late February. We can push it a bit earlier, but we won't get an adequate base time before the transit. But the nice thing about it is it's an 1 hour transit and it has a 1 day period. So it's
And we
tons of
so we
attempts.
So Leon, when are you going to have the automated software? This is a great use for automated software.
Yeah, but I plan to look at it in detail more this weekend. I've been writing with Nick a lot on Slack.
And we're having an automation meeting next week on Thursday. So we should be able to talk about all of these, the automation part of it at least then.
Yep. Right now we're working into getting the target into the sequencer. So if you add an item in the Nina sequencer, so do this, that doesn't exist yet. to modulate between targets with a single sequence item. Because if you remember, you always have to drag a new class basically with its own header with target information in there. And what we now want to do is have a sequence item which tells you, hey, go to that target.
Mhm.
So that's the current challenge. Right, but I have to go now.
Okay,
So
thanks, Leon.
Yep.
Thank you. Nice.
and I look forward to the paper, Russ, in that email. That sounded interesting.
Oh, you're muted.
I'll get the paper out, Leon.
Yep, perfect. Okay, then yeah, see you next Thursday.
See you next Thursday.
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Or-
See you.
Yeah.
Yeah, either. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you very much for all your thoughts on this. I am super, super excited. I had one more thing, but it's about those coordinates in Rick's spreadsheet, but I feel like I've taken up enough time of this meeting and I'm gonna have to go at 11:30 anyway. So I'm gonna email you later about that, Rick, but I'll
Okay.
just, but I'm
Grady?
gonna stick around for 15 more minutes.
Grady, could you stay on afterwards to just chit chat a bit?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about the 24 and the 1 meter was target selection. I don't think we should have any trouble as a group deciding on what to do there. So I'm going to leave it to you as a group to figure out, what you want to do. You'll have a whole night at a time, and we'll have maybe automated software soon or someday. So, and I suspect that because speckle happens pretty fast, I suspect there shouldn't be any lack of telescope time. Transits are another matter, but everybody loves exoplanet transits, so you won't have any trouble convincing, I think, the rest of us to do that. Okay, that's basically all I had today. Anybody else?
Dave, have you ever shared that spreadsheet? That is,
Many times, Scott.
yeah. I just, it's a very nice product, a nice tool. And I'd probably.
Are you the only one that doesn't have it?
I
Anybody
probably
else have?
do, and I just don't know where it is.
Okay, you want me to send it out again?
It would be great, yeah.
Okay. Do I have the current mailing list for everybody that is interested in this stuff or not? Who keeps track of that? I certainly don't.
I think the mailing list should be current with whoever got the email about today's meeting happening, probably.
Okay.
Usually Pat sends out the.
Yeah,
invites.
I've got the list. If you use the mailing list on the email for the invitation, that's the latest one. It's a lot longer than the attendees, but that doesn't mean that they're not following the videos.
I have something to pass on from Bob Buckheim. So I asked him about SAS. And so what they're currently going to do is they're going to have it in Ontario on the 3rd and 4th of June. So that's a Friday, Saturday with workshops on the 2nd. So that's a week before the AAS meeting and our Mount Wilson observations. So at any rate, things could be changed around, and they're going to open up the website for registration in about a week. Bob's going to let me know as soon as it's open, and I'll send out an email to everyone. And Bob is encouraging papers on science results. So he'd like to see speckle results. And he's, from us and students and so forth. So he's particularly looking for results. And the abstract is going to be due the middle of March, and the papers, I think the middle of May.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the same weekend as OHS graduation weekend, so I will not be able to make it to that one.
Rick,
I'm
all of,
still gonna have students submit papers to there because it's such a perfect venue for us, but yeah, we won't be able to attend or present that weekend, alas. But we'll be there the next weekend. Maybe we'll swing by and catch some of AAS after the observing run.
that would make sense. And maybe we could schedule, instead of the 3 additional nights for kind of Lancaster students and production runs on the 60-inch, maybe we could schedule that for a somewhat different time and decouple the two. So that way, Clay, you come down to the a small telescope workshop for Saturday and Sunday, observe up on Mount Wilson on Monday, and then back to the AAS meeting, because they're going to be really good meetings. So I've been corresponding with Kevin Marvel, the executive officer, and what they had to cancel at the last minute due to Omicron, the winter meeting. And so they have some really choice speakers and so forth that they had promised they would be on that. So they're just moving them in to the summer meeting. So the summer meeting is going to be summer meetings usually quite small compared to the winter meetings, but this summer meeting will probably be pretty big, and it's going to have lots of really good speakers because it's going to have kind of a double whammy of people who've been waiting to say their thing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds great. If nobody has anything else, I can ask about that target spreadsheet thing now. But I just feel like I'm talking too much as usual. So so I don't want to take up more time.
I'd like to hear it.
Okay, good. There, I'll take that. So I was looking at Rick's target selection spreadsheet, which I will share now. And this was the target list, as you have seen before. I'll make it larger view. And the issue is that for stars that are not in the Washington Double Star catalog, he told us make sure you look them up to see if they are elsewhere, to see if they've been added rather since 2018, because this is from the tool from 2018. So I was doing that. I was trying to automate it by looking it up on Vizier, but I had some puzzling results, and so I summarize them here. This is the Discover code, and I did the ones that were known to be in there also because I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right for the ones that weren't in there. This is the Discover from the spreadsheet. These are the PA from the spreadsheet and SEP from the spreadsheet. So if you just look back at the original target list, these are the ones that are listed in there. But then I took the listed coordinates and calculated the PA and SEP and got answers that were different enough that I don't know what's going on. And then I looked them up in Vizier and got answers that were very different. And it might be because of updates, but it looks too different to be because of updates. So I guess twofold, where do the coordinates in the spreadsheet come from? Because if they're supposed to go with the PA and SEP in the spreadsheet, there seems to be a mismatch between those. And then And then does anyone have any ideas why those position angles are so different in Vizier, which online, which I just wanted to make sure I matched those up before I started claiming that there were, before I started being certain of this technique for automating the lookup from WDS of coordinates that are listed as unknown.
I think the coordinates must be from Gaia because they're coming out of the DR2 database.
Mhm.
And so they must be from Gaia, but there might be a round off problem because they probably are rounded to less significant digits in the spreadsheet.
Okay, oh, well, that's good, actually. So it's not like they're supposed to come from the same place. The PA and SEP come from WDS in 2018. The coordinates come from Gaia in 2018. So that explains some of the mismatch.
And the Gaia coordinates of the Gaia observation, they come from, I presume, accurate, the full Gaia number of decimal places calculation within DR2. Dave,
Did that come from GDS, Rick?
yeah, I believe it does.
Well, let's
So it
try
must-
and,
It must be the Gaia data that's input to that. It's already in that DR2 that you're pulling up.
Okay, all right, well, that explains that discrepancy, but then the position angles from Vizier currently are just way wacky. And separations too, from like, maybe there's a problem with the lookup, but I checked that the Discoverer code matched. And it just is like, either these stars are moving insanely fast, or maybe they're using a different coordinate system.
Is the epoch the same between Vizier and Gaia?
Oh, I did not look. Maybe that
Gaia,
is
I
it.
believe Gaia gives J2000 coordinates, which are kind of
the epic
universal.
is 2015.5, right?
That's
For
when the
Gaia.
data is corrected to. But
Yeah,
I-
well, that's the epic, and the
Yeah,
epoch is, J2000.
yeah.
Okay.
Looks like that STT, it's possible it could be a known binary too, in which case you could look it up in 6th orbit catalog on the ephemerides and get for this year, for 0 January 2022, a separation and position angle based on the known orbit. So
That's
if
an
you have
awesome
some in the
idea.
list, if it's not that one, if there's other ones that are known, then you could use those for test cases to know what it really should be right now and compare that with other things you're getting.
Yeah, okay, that's an awesome idea. I will do that. And I bet some of these discrepancies will be resolved. Thank you all so much again. Okay, now that I've taken over everything, now I need to go, and sorry for hijacking so much of this, but this is super exciting, and thank you all so much for all of your thoughts on these awesome projects. I'm extremely excited. See you
You
later.
always have good questions.
Yeah, you make it fun, Clay. Keep it up.
Awesome, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, unfortunately, I also have to head out to my next class, but it's nice seeing y'all, and I'll see you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
That's about it, isn't it?
I think so for today.
Yeah, I wanted to, if you can leave it on for a minute, I wanted to talk to Grady just a bit.
Okay, take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.